Hello. I've got a few bits that have arrived. Planning to do a track day on Monday in Bedford. So we've got a couple of days, but let's finish off this car so we can do the track day. So here's the oil pressure sensor. Here's the unit, the sensing unit. I've got a new O-ring to go around it because, well, the old one's gone. So that's one thing to do, so that'll fit nicely in the socket it's got. I've also got the Molex connectors there. Let's try and put some of these pins on here and see if we can get it to work. Well, it looks like that's not the right terminal, so I'm going to have to order some more terminals and try again next week. Hopefully I've resolved this rack movement issue without too much trouble. Basically what I think's been happening was that these spaces that I used between the rack and the rack mounting were a little bit too long. So in effect the rack was floating above the chassis, which meant that it was just moving with the bolts. You can see how this is actually bowed out a little bit. So what I've done is I've shortened these spaces by 1 mil or so each, making sure that they're below the 25.4mm of the inch tube that is going around. And I've also added some rubber as well behind the rack and the chassis, so it will provide a bit of grip and stop that rack moving, hopefully, because basically it wasn't really clamped to the frame and now it should be. Let's put it back together and see if that solved the issue, because if it hasn't, then it does mean that it's a fabrication project and I'm going to have to add some extra mounts, which I really don't want to do. It looks like I fixed the issue with rubber and shortening those pieces inside the rack. So let me just move it for you. Yeah, it's definitely a lot better. It's still trying to move a bit, but it's better. I've also got these bolt-in collars to do the rack limits or the rack stops. It looks like they're going to fit without any issue. So let's bolt them in and see if we can get the rack to stop where we need it to, so we don't end up taking the floor off. I'm also going to add some aluminium tape to this rim where these wheel weights are, so these wheel weights can't fall off. The scrutineers are probably going to look for that as well. I'm going to sort the camber out now and try and dial in about 2 degrees, just roughly, by adjusting the bottom ball joint. It looks like I've actually dialed in too much camber. I made a mistake in my calculation. I used the whole wheel height rather than the height of where the lower wishbone connects to, so I've ended up with 3.5 degrees of camber instead of 2 degrees camber. But no bother, what I'll do is I'll adjust it at the top because I've got space to wind that out. That also means I'll have a slightly wider track as well at the front, which should help the front end. Now I need to try and make my seat fit that Greg and I made before. So I've got my trusty Stanley knife and then I'll wrap it in Gorilla Tape after. And seat. And I've also put some foam down there where the seat isn't, so it should be reasonably comfortable. I've just added some bits in for cable management with this rear light on the diffuser. I think we're nearly ready. The only thing I'd really like to have done today is change the cam belt. Obviously with the trigger wheel and everything that's on there, it's not quite the same as it's written in the Haynes manual, so I'm a bit unsure about it. So I'm going to wait till Greg comes on Monday before we go to the track. We have to bleed the brakes anyway, so we'll bleed the brakes, maybe change the cam belt, maybe we will just run it as is. I've got it if we've got time to do it. And then that's pretty much it. The only other thing I need to do is really get comfortable in the car with all my race gear on, and I'm not going to do that now, it's a bit late. But yeah, I think we're ready to go.